welcome back everyone to Red Spotlight number 324. I'm your host, Alexis J. Soto, joined by Mr. Peter Martinez, bringing you all the latest stories coming out of the world of movies. This week, HBO Max announces new Batman and Superman shows, AT&T dumps Warner Media, and we have a review for the Amazon Prime series Invincible, this time with Peter Martinez, giving his thoughts on it. So that's our show for the week. As always, of course, I want to remind you that we did just wrap up our two-part segment series on a much more in-depth analysis of the first season of Invincible with David Francisco. An upcoming episode that we will be discussing is a review for Harley Quinn, the animated series currently streaming on HBO Max. We'll be discussing seasons 1 and 2, so stay tuned for that. And don't worry, we are creeping up on Loki, and David and I will be back for our weekly recaps on those. The Fantasy Fair podcast is releasing episodes whenever they can. They tell me that they have been annoyingly detained by out control that can't really be made by them and schedules. And I know that Peter and myself have been affected by schedules this month, so it is what it is. But they spent a month making an episode talking about some reviews for Robin Hood and the Aristocats and some other movie, I forget, I don't know, from the 70s of the Disney era. So by the time that this episode is up, they will also be up with this new episode, and I hope to hear more from them soon. And in case anybody forgot, we will be having a top 10 show dedicated to, even though we are in the middle of 2021, if you are a longtime listener, you are aware that we are very, very slow when it comes to getting these lists out there. So the previous year is 2020. And in June, sometime in June, you will be hearing the episode where we talk about our favorite movies from 2020. Likewise, and hopefully, I know Peter Martinez will be there, and I'm hoping to have Kyle Lira and others, hopefully, to be on that show. It's some of our biggest shows of the year. And David Francisco and I are going to be having a supplementary companion piece discussing some of our favorite television shows of that year as well, since there was a lot of great TV for 2020. And there, at some point, we are going to have reviews for the upcoming Quiet Place Part 2, as well as Cruella. I would imagine the Fantasy Fair podcast would also have a show for Cruella during the month that we are in. Peter, how are you doing this week?
Next question.
Great. Let's get into what we saw this week. I suspect perhaps one of us has a lot more to say on this than the other, but to give my good friend Mr. Martinez some time to think of what he has, if anything, has seen this week, I'll go ahead and start off here. I am toward the tail end of my marathon binge watch, I guess you could say, of Malcolm in the Middle. And would you believe it that my love and appreciation for the show has only considerably skyrocketed as the seasons have aged. And one of the things that I've really picked up on is it is kind of the rare show / sitcom, at least for me, and since I'm in the presence of one of the biggest fans of this show of all time, I'd like to hear his thoughts if he feels the same way, and that is, it is one of the rare shows / sitcoms that just doesn't seem to lose steam. Like, it is, the laughs are consistently all the way through. Sure, there are some, they did run out of ideas with Francis toward the last, I think, 2 seasons.
Yeah. Like,
that's about it.
Rewatching, it's like, he does kind of just disappear.
I don't think they had much to say at that point with Francis.
Yeah, and then, like, his whole time at the ranch, like, they don't even really wrap up that situation.
It's written off screen, yeah.
It's just off screen. It's like, oh, he got fired.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, that's weird.
I'm not sure if I read this wrong, but one of the sites that I was reading, the implication was that the ranch situation, that storyline was written off because the actor who played Francis would not commit to as many episodes as he did in previous seasons. So maybe it could be a situation where the actor himself was just no longer wanting to be consistently a part of the show.
That's fine, but I would think, but he would still show up, right?
Yeah.
In the show.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have at least had a few episodes to like wrap up his time there, you know?
It felt very abrupt when they were just like, oh, and now we're out of here.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, though, I enjoy Francis. He had some great energy whenever he's around, especially when he confronts Lois. But I feel like his storylines were always, I think, my least favorite of any episode.
Mm-hmm.
There were some times when they were really, really great, but they never really were the center of attention.
They were always B plots.
Yes.
They were never the center. They were always the B plot.
Mm-hmm.
Which, he's the neglected child, I guess, right?
Yeah. So it does feel that way. But no, I mean, I'm still in season 7, like 7 seasons. They're still cranking out some great episodes. I think some of the ones, especially season 6, had some amazing episodes. One of the ones that I was just cackling was the episode where I think, what was the friend? The name Jessica, where she convinced Malcolm and Reese
that they were
the other
both
was
gay.
Yeah.
And they were trying to be nice to each other. They were like both dancing to the beast.
Yeah. That I was cackling. That was amazing, you know. There was the billboard episode, which that's one where the kids basically pass themselves off as political protesters, and then the whole crowd starts to come and cheer for them because they're feminists, apparently. No, man, this show is even better than I remember. I have to be honest with you. It has so risen in the ranks of like
It's one of the all-time greats.
It is. I honestly feel it is. And it's kept the momentum, and the performances continuously deliver across the board. I can't believe it's not talked about more, honestly. But this is amazing. This is a great. If you're out there, please go out there and rewatch the show. I think it absolutely deserves to be in, the pantheon of great sitcoms, and one of the few that doesn't lose steam all the way toward the end. Because there are some of the greats like Modern Family and Frasier who, in their last couple seasons, there's a noticeable decline in quality.
No,
while still good in their own right.
I'm sure you loved that final episode.
Oh, well, I'm not there yet. I'm not done. I'm not done yet. I will get to it. I'm not done. I'm in, I think, in the middle of season 7. So I'm almost there, but not just quite yet.
Okay.
But I'll be there. By the time we talk next time, I will have officially be finished with my Malcolm rewatch. But yeah, one of the weird things though is, and this is my next thing that I'm watching, which is Harley Quinn.
It's funny
Oh yeah, it is. But one of the weirdest things was seeing a Frankie Muniz of all things cameo in the first season of Harley Quinn. So there's this episode where they go into Harley's head, and it turns out like her, I guess, childhood crush was Malcolm from Malcolm in the Middle, and they have literally Frankie Muniz come back and do the voice. And I was so caught off guard because before they revealed that it was Frankie Muniz in that episode, something about that voice just stuck out to me. And I'm like, wait, is the TV breaking? Because I was watching,
You're
Malcolm on a loop. Yeah, I was watching it on a loop basically, and then it turns out that it is literally Frankie Muniz. Which is rare for him because I don't see him doing much work.
He doesn't do any of that anymore.
No. Mm-mm. So, but that was a surprise there. So, but Harley Quinn is, I don't even know how to begin to describe the experience of watching this. It is, first and foremost, hilarious. It is also surprisingly at times weirdly heartwarming.
Mm-hmm.
On the whole, this may be the best DC content of the last 10 years. Maybe
It's genuinely good. Yeah.
I mean,
maybe.
and I mean like shows and movies, anything in the last 10 years.
Yeah, because I mean, those CW shows, I know they have their audience, but that audience ain't me. The movies.
And if they are, I know that these, I never got into those shows.
Mhm.
Did you watch the CW shows? I know David watches them, but if they're good, it's for the first like few seasons. Then they go on forever.
They're okay, but it's still CW.
Yeah,
It's still bad writing and bad acting and minimal effects and just I don't know if I can watch anything from the CW. There's a lot of shit that people love about the CW. It ain't for me, like I said. A lot of people love a lot of shit on there. Not me. Like even I don't know for sure if it was CW, but like Supernatural. Isn't Supernatural super? Like people love Supernatural.
They just ended their 15-year run last year.
Yeah, I just saw a really funny video on that. I've never seen I saw the first episode when it originally aired.
Really? Wow.
Yes. All I remember is that first episode. And the first episode was pretty dark. Like, it was going for a very different tone that they ended up with. I mean, obviously, you go for 15 seasons or 15 years. Like, what the fuck are you going to do, right? But yeah, like, I couldn't. Like, I'll see clips of it, like, the way people love it. I'm like, yeah, that's not for me. So, yeah. It might just be a CW thing. But, like, the movies are really good. Some of them, DC films. There's a handful. I enjoyed Aquaman, really love Shazam. Birds of Prey was neat. There's got to be another one in there.
Wonder Woman, the first movie? It was good.
It was good. But that's the one that's of the goods, that's the one I care the least. Yeah, I guess there's only really 3 I can think of.
Yeah, because Wonder Woman is the most, I guess, beloved of the last 10 years as far as DC movies. You and I don't particularly care for it too much, but I really, really do love Shazam. I really enjoy Aquaman. Birds of Prey was fun.
It was fun. It was neat.
The rest of them, well, where do you start?
Yeah, the rest, it's just... Yeah. So, yeah, no, legitimately, it could be, like, the best DC thing in a long-ass fucking time. I
don't know if you count the Lego Batman movie. That was really good.
Oh, yeah. I guess, yeah, you can count that one. I really enjoyed it. But no, I mean, Kite Man's an MVP.
He really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, this is an interesting ensemble. You have Kaylee Cuoco doing the voice of Harley Quinn. But then you also have Poison Ivy, who is the other main character here. You have King Shark, Psycho, right? Psycho?
The way,
right?
Oh God. The writing is so amazing. The way he got like canceled.
He called one woman the C word.
Sorry, I can't. Can I not? It's the internet. I could say the word. It's in England. They say it every 2 seconds. Okay. Okay.
No, he got canceled. It was so bad that the Legion of Doom were like, he is no longer part of our membership.
Yeah, they did.
He is not part of our brand of evil.
He got cancel cultured, so he had to work with Harley to revive his image. Like, it's so stupid, but it's funny.
That's a good way to describe a lot of the things that happen in the show. It's so stupid, but it's funny. You have Clayface, who is basically this like an actor. It's oh my goodness, there's so much.
See, and the thing is too, I really love this version of King Shark that I'm gonna have trouble with James Gunn's movie.
Oh, it's gonna be a completely different version of King Shark.
Yeah, that's
obviously.
Why. But it's like, I don't know. I really like this one's so funny to me.
Yeah, well, the cast is so great. You have JB Smoove here as Poison Ivy's plant. You have Jason Alexander, right, as Psy. There's so many great. What's his name? Alan Tudyk has a great Joker.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun.
It's a lot, and I mean, it's There's so many clips from the show that I think are kind of the writing, right? It all comes down to it's so good.
You know what makes it work though? It's crazy because they're kind of it's like these over the top parodies of the character, but the characters also feel very much in line with who they are.
Mm-hmm. They do, don't they?
Like Batman, it's a silly, pumped up like adult version.
Yeah.
But he feels like Batman, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Same with Superman. Same with Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. Like all the Joker.
Yeah.
So it's weird the way they're able to make that work.
You'd almost think it would be like a really weird adult sequel series to the Batman animated series or the Justice League animated series.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of really do feel very much like they were in those shows.
Mm-hmm. Because, like, something like Lego Batman, it's funny, and it's, like, these sort of parodies of the character, but they don't necessarily feel like the characters. They feel like those parodies, you know what I mean?
They do, yes. Yeah.
In here, they're kind of able to have their cake and eat it, too, which is interesting. Oh, and the Queen of Fables, played by Wanda Sykes.
Yeah.
Who's fucking insane.
Robin, by the way, played by your favorite Jacob Tremblay.
Right? We need a fucking kid in Hollywood. Let's go get Tremblay. I think he plays Damian Wayne, who is Batman's
His son. Yeah.
There's been like 4 Jokers. Wait, let me see if I can name them all right now.
4 Jokers or 4 Robins?
4 Robins. So there's
Tim Drake.
The original Robin is Dick Grayson.
Okay.
From the Flying Graysons of the circus. And then after that is Jason Todd before he got killed by the Joker. Uh-huh. And then Tim Drake. And then after him is Damian Wayne, which is Batman basically kind of got raped by Talia al Ghul like a while back, and then she just kind of shows up and she's like, "Hey, you got a son. Here you go. Take care of him now." I've trained him to be a fucking murderer. So Batman, so the whole storyline is he's literally kind of like a fucking, he wants to murder all the villains, like this little 10-year-old little shit that he just realized is his son, so he turns him into Robin to try and teach him not to do that shit. But no, that's so funny. Like that, like when Harley Quinn is like looking for a new supervillain.
Mm-hmm.
And
you mean Nemesis?
A new Nemesis, right?
Yeah.
And then they keep putting Damian Wayne, Robin, onto her as her Nemesis.
Yeah.
And then even like Superman shows up and he's like, "All right, kiddo," like he brought Robin to like, "You got this." I don't know, but that's what I mean. Like, it's kind of like, it's cute. But then there's like fucked up shit a second later. I don't know.
Oh, there's a lot of fucked up shit that happens. A lot of it, yeah.
It works. I think sometimes the fucked up shit goes a little too far.
Yeah, I do agree with that. But it still reins it in overall at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, it's a fun show. So you guys are going to review that?
Yeah, that'll be the next episode when we're talking about the 2 seasons and everything. That's one of the shows that we're going to be discussing until we get to Loki, which is honestly almost pretty soon at this point.
Isn't it Wednesday?
No, it's July 9th. No, June 9th, which is in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Not this Wednesday. I know it feels like it's this close, but it's not that close.
Okay.
Close enough. But yeah, no, it's honestly to me amazing how the show, I know it has an audience. Do you feel that it's blown up to the degree that it should at this point?
No, I don't think so.
I know it got a 3rd season renewal. It's going to be on HBO Max.
I hope HBO Max for the 3rd season like really pushes it.
They should, because they have nothing to promote as far as TV shows, besides the other Kaylee Cuoco show, The Flight Attendant, which I've yet to see.
Especially if like Invincible is taken off.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, we have our own R-rated animated series. Like, check it out.
And it's good.
It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, this was originally on DC Universe, I think for the first 2 seasons, and then it's going to be moving to HBO Max for its 3rd season. DC Universe has since now transitioned into being a service for comics only, not for content. But like, there's a lot of DC content, whether be in TV shows. There's so many DC TV shows and a lot of DC films.
One day, I'm just going to be like, let me start at the beginning. And watch all this animated DC stuff.
It's a lot, man.
Like, you got to go back to that original Batman series, and then the Superman series, and then like
Justice League,
and then get into Young Justice. Like, there's a lot in that animated sphere. So I that's why I always say, like, I think HBO Max has some good ass content. I don't know.
I'd be hard pressed to find anything that tops this, It's, and I think for the most part, that's not saying much, but in some cases it is saying a lot. I really am curious to see how good the Suicide Squad is and the Batman is. Because it's been a while where we've had exceptional DC movies. We've had some good ones, but exceptional. And I think, those 2 films coming from creators who have turned in exceptional work in the past, I think the high expectations are warranted. And but this is an interesting model that they have here with Harley Quinn. And I would hope more people would tune in so we can get more of it, because it's genuinely hilarious.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like, one of the recent episodes it was a complete trolling of like the I guess ultra nerds, where they had 2 guys, one that said,
I was going to ask you if
cut.
you saw that one yet.
I got that one, yeah. So one guy had the shirt with "Release the Snyder Cut," and the other one had a shirt with "The Last Jedi is not canon." Mm-hmm. And they just go into this like 2.5 minute opening intro of everything you would expect they would say. And it's hilarious. This show just gets it.
Yeah. It just,
and they nail it.
They nail the nerds as zeitgeist, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So good for them. And the other one that I started to watch, I'm going to get back to. I just need to finish some other shows to get out of the way with first. And that is, I think I saw the first 2 episodes of the TV version of What We Do in the Shadows. Okay. So I'm not super duper well versed on like all the things that happen, but the basic premise is this old vampire king wakes up and he's like, take over the world by the time I wake back up. And then these from my observation, fairly incompetent vampires are left to figure out. Yeah, they have to figure out how to. That's a fair assessment. These fairly incompetent vampires are now left to figure out how to take over the world. And the second episode, they
not the world, literally just
Staten Island.
Yeah. And even then, they. I don't know if you got to it, but I think it's later in the season. They're like, okay, how much of Staten Island have we taken for ourselves? And and it's like 2 blocks. And it's like, that's it? That's all we've done so far?
I don't know what to say, man. It's exactly on brand for What We Do in the Shadows. Mm-hmm. I think it's honestly like, if you love, and it is brought to us by, I think the first episode at least was, I don't know if it was written or anything, but I know that Taika and Jermaine Clement are very much involved in it. And the humor is top notch. There was this great bit where one of them tries to, I guess, impress the head of the city council by trying to eliminate all of the raccoons that she complains about, and he does it in a way that is perceived as a threat by her. And then she name drops MS-13, which was hilarious. It's really funny. And that's just the first 2 episodes that I saw.
I love the show. I think it's really, really funny. Uh, now I'm just thinking about shit from the show and I'm just laughing. No, it's I really love it. I hope it goes for a lot more seasons. But you've only seen 2 episodes, so I don't want to.
I'll get to the rest. It's only 2 seasons so far. So not a big commitment to watch at this point, but I would expect it would be going on for a while because the Emmys really loved it. They nominated it for a bunch of stuff last year. They got a comedy series nomination.
I will say, surprisingly, a lot of the funniest stuff to me is stuff with Guillermo.
Oh yeah,
they do a lot of stuff with him, which I assume they've probably said this somewhere. His name is a nod to like Guillermo del Toro. I assume
that would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of looks like a younger version of him, anyways. But also, did you see who was playing the evil vampire?
I did not know.
What's his name? Who's always
Doug Jones?
Doug Jones, yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense then.
Yeah.
Doug Jones, who is literally Del Toro's muse. He plays all of the creatures in all of his films. And if you want to know more about our thoughts on Del Toro's work, we had a whole series on Del Toro. You can just go back on this feed and look him up. We had some great conversations about that. And Doug Jones was mentioned quite frequently. So yeah, that's kind of where basically all that I've been watching this week. What about you? You got anything? You got anything to share here? It could also be I mean, I know that once here, David turned it into what he read this week. Kyle, predictably so, turned it into what he listened to this week. So it's not exclusive to just shows or movies. So you can mention whatever the hell you want to mention.
Since we only exclusively discuss film here, I feel that's a little...
I know, but they went rogue, and if you want to go rogue too, you can go ahead and do that.
I'll mention some things. Let me think. Well, I can pull it up right here.
Sure. I would appreciate that.
It freaking lets me. Okay.
Oh, I should mention before, real quick, for those who are, if you liked or were interested in any of the shows that we discussed, I want to provide you guys the information for where to actually stream these shows. So Malcolm in the Middle, you can actually watch on Amazon Prime or IMDb TV, either or. Then there's Harley Quinn, which you can stream on HBO Max. And What We Do in the Shadows, currently on, it airs on FX, the new seasons, but you can stream on Hulu. So.
Okay. That's fantastic. Go watch Malcolm in the Middle. I read Batman, The Court of Owls and the City of Owls, which is just, it's the books that introduced the Court of Owls villains. Do you know who the Court of Owls are?
I do not know who they are.
They're very recent. They were literally just created 2011, 2014, something around there. And they're literally they're basically like Gotham's Illuminati.
Really?
They're called the Court of Owls because I guess in nature the villain to a bat is now. Whatever. But they're basically just the super wealthy elites that run Gotham behind the shadows, and they all wear like an owl mask. And they trace back to like the very beginning when Gotham was first founded hundreds of years ago, and like this it's literally like Gotham's Illuminati. And they have, but they don't fight, like they're just sort of like this, literally a court, but they have assassins called the Talons, dressed like owls, you know, that do their bidding for them. They're actually a really, really cool adversary, and the book's really cool. After that, I read Death of the Family, which takes place right after that in the comics. If you know of the story, it's Death in the Family. Do you know what Batman story that is?
I've never picked up a Batman comic.
Okay. Death in the Family was the comic that killed Jason Todd.
Oh,
back in the day. It was called Death in the Family. And this one was called Death of the Family. And it's basically the Joker going like, you, in the beginning, it was just me and you, and it was beautiful, you know? But since then, you have this whole like family around you. You know, you have Batgirl, you have Robin, you have Nightwing, you have the Red Hood, which is Jason Todd back from the dead. Red Robin, which is what Tim Drake calls himself, because he has like 5 fucking...
God damn.
Yeah, and they're all under his wing. It's called the Bat Family. And he's going like, it's not the same anymore. Like, these people have made you soft. So I'm going to change things. I'm going to eliminate them. And it's basically Joker trying to... It's very sexual, the way that Batman and Joker, their relationship is kind of portrayed in the book. I kind of like it. And he's basically trying to rekindle their love.
Well, that's the way the Joker has always viewed it as.
Yeah.
It's always going to kind of a romance. I mean, that was also the way that it was kind of in the spoof version of themselves in the Lego Batman movie, you know, like they're these best friends, but that's always the way the Joker has always viewed their relationship.
But that's why I loved Lego Batman, because it's like, this is ridiculous, but they kind of get the dynamic.
Yeah.
And actually, it's so funny, because after Death of the Family, the one after that is called Endgame. And it's basically, not to spoil the end of Death of the Family, it doesn't end the way Joker wants it. And he feels like utterly betrayed and rejected by Batman. So the Joker's like, it's time to end this. I'm done holding back. And that's why it's called Endgame. And it's basically him just bringing hellfire onto the Batman, going like, I thought we had something special. Apparently not.
It's like a scorned lover.
Yeah, basically. I haven't read that one yet, but I'm going to. After that, I read the Flintstones comic, which was
a Flintstones comic?
It's actually funny. And again, this was recently, maybe 2014 or something. They relaunched a lot of these old Hanna-Barbera cartoons as comics, but like with modern spins.
Okay.
And the Flintstones is basically, the comic is basically like a dark satire. Like it turns Flintstone into like a war vet, and they talk about like consumerism, and they talk about like how they just...
But it's still the Flintstones.
It's still the Flintstones.
Prehistoric.
Yeah,
okay.
They're in a prehistoric, but that was always the joke of the Flintstones. Yeah. It's modern day, but
suburbia, but in
modern suburbia,
times.
But prehistoric. So they use that to like, they talk about consumerism and how like, you know, when now I'm working so hard to make money to buy things that I never needed before. But if I don't have them, I feel like I don't it's crazy the way they talk about things. And there's actually a funny thing where him and Velma got married, and there's all these people that look at them and they're like, that's disgusting. It's unnatural.
Velma or Wilma?
Wilma, sorry.
Velma is from Scooby-Doo, right?
Yeah, sorry. But him and Wilma get married, and everyone's like, go back. It's unnatural. You know, the cave sex, back in the day when we just had the sex circles in the caves, that's how it's been done forever. This disgusting new kink you guys have called marriage, monogamy.
Oh my God.
What is that?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's really interesting.
I would be curious to see. I know that for a while, and I don't know if Seth MacFarlane would ever be the right person to do this.
I don't know about him, that guy.
But you do know that for a longest time there was talk of this anticipated reboot of the Flintstones series with MacFarlane to do that, but it never went anywhere. And if they ever were to do it, this actually sounds like the perfect comic to adapt.
I think it's a great way to reimagine it, because it's doing the same thing the cartoon was kind of doing, but to the nth degree, which is poking fun of like modern day stuff. And like, you know how like all the appliances are animals? There's one section of the comic where it's like they used to worship these birds because as gods, right? Like that used to be the god, but now that bird is it's an appliance. They use that bird as an appliance, so they're like, well, that god doesn't make sense anymore. So then the church comes out with a new god, which is like this elephant, but then that elephant becomes a vacuum cleaner. And they're like, you know, these gods, so that keeps happening till the church finally decides, okay, we've finally settled on a god. It's invisible. You can't see him, but he's there, we swear. And anything you want him to be, that's who he is. And they're like, okay, that works for me. And
wow.
Yeah, it's something. It's pretty.
I haven't seen Flintstones in ages.
Yeah,
but it's one of those classic cartoons that you do grow up at least like it's like, you know, in the pantheon of Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes, all those things that are just like the standard, the classics of the classics, you know. Hanna-Barbera, that is owned by Warner Media, right?
Yes. They
technically could do this on HBO Max if they so wished.
I think it would be really good. Be really good.
Yeah.
Oh, they also go after the industrial war complex because Fred and what's his name? Barney are war vets, because the entire reason Bedrock Civilization is there is because they were part of the I think they call it the Paleolithic Wars, and they fought the tree people, and they were told the tree people are going to come and kill them and do all this stuff to them and da-da-da-da-da. So they go to war and they show flashbacks, and they realize they were lied to because they're like, they had no intention of ever harming us, these tree people. And
you're selling me on this. You're also selling me on the idea of a show adaptation.
Yes,
of this. And I think HBO Max, we're giving you some ideas here.
I think this would be
show.
Fantastic. I think it would work.
Yeah,
and people would call it brilliant. I think it's great. And then the last thing I read was Superman smashes the Klan.
Oh, the Ku Klux Klan.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was just Captain America that got political.
Oh, apparently not. No.
Comics can get political. Wow.
Disgusting, right? And what's cool about Superman smashes the Klan is that it's very, like, all comics I think are for kids, but it's very much a kid's book.
Sure.
Right? Like they want kids to read this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cute, and it's really well done, and it's about following these Asian immigrants, kids that are dealing with racism, and they're called aliens.
Very timely.
And at the same time, though, Superman is dealing with the fact that he's an alien, and he kind of shut himself away from that as well.
Wow.
And then of course the Klan sees that these Asian Americans have come to town, so they're like, we can't deal with that. They're, you know, they used to just stay on the outskirts now, and they're in the bad side of town. And it literally opens up with Superman fighting this like Nazi villain, you know, with the symbol, and he's like, you know, we're the race, and da 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 da. No, I really loved it. I thought it was really, really good. Yeah. But enough with books, because that's nerd shit. Movies. I only saw one movie. Really won anything this past week, and it was Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. How was Zack Snyder's latest film? I'm sorry if I seemed a little perplexed. I just know that of all the movies that I had hoped to discuss this week, this wasn't one of them.
I saw it with family.
Okay.
It was a Zack Snyder film.
Yeah,
but
I can imagine.
It was the kind of Zack Snyder film that I can very much enjoy. That being said, it is very clear that he had carte blanche. Is that what you say? To just do whatever the fuck he wanted. And some of the stuff is kind of cool, and some of it I'm just what? I'm gonna do spoilers because I know you don't care.
Isn't that what he always does? though? I think that's in any Zack Snyder project.
You have to hear some of the shit. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
First of all,
spoilers for Army of the Dead now.
First of all, it's 2.5 hours. Way too long. Way too long. Like I said, very clear. No one told him no. Like,
it's still his shortest movie of the year.
Yep. By a country mile. But he does actually do some neat stuff with the zombies. He introduces some neat ideas. But there are things that happen that are not explained. And I'm like, of course it's like, oh, okay, we're doing like a I guess a movie universe. But it's I don't know how to say this. Things just happen and then they're not commented on. And then I'm like, wait, did I take crazy pills? Like that just, what? Okay. So like in the very beginning of the movie, it's like a you blink and you'll miss it moment. There are UFOs that just fly off.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Never commented again. It's just they're there and then they're gone. Okay.
Like UFOs, like literal alien UFOs.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, the first time I didn't notice it, but then I saw online people are like, yeah, there was fucking UFOs. And I went back and I started the movie and like right at the beginning I was like, oh yeah, there's fucking UFOs. Like is that okay? In another blink of you'll miss it moment, they're fighting in the casino, right? They're shooting zombies. They shoot one zombie. And again, this is a blink and you'll miss it moment. They shoot a zombie and it's a robot. Like a cyborg. Like the skin,
a cyborg zombie.
Yes, like the skin flies away and it's like fucking Terminator underneath.
Why?
I don't know. Like literally, like blink and you'll miss it. It happens and then they just move on, right? Like, and I was like, I know I saw what I saw, and I rewound it and I'm like, yep, that was a cyborg. And then people online are like, yeah, that's a fucking cyborg. And then there's this thing, it was directly commented on, but like as a joke. And again, it kind of was commented on and then like not referenced at all. They get to the vault where they're trying to take out the money, right? And there's corpses. And they're like, oh, someone has been in here before that tried to get in. And the corpses look exactly like our group, our heroes.
Oh.
Like they're skeletons, like you can't see their face, but they're wearing the same clothes.
So one would be mistaken for thinking there could be possible doppelgangers?
Or like a time loop. They literally dropped this idea of like a time loop.
Oh, they do then?
But it's sort of like in a joking way.
Oh, okay.
Or so not? I don't know.
I'm getting the sense that you're never really sure what the hell's going on.
No.
Then, right?
Like,
okay.
But what's weird is like the story itself is pretty standard, but then just little things like this will just happen. And I'm like,
and then what's the point of any of this?
Yeah. Because the movie just like touches it and then moves on. Like not even like a reference, like, ooh,
yeah.
Like it just kind of happens and it keeps going and you're just left going like, what? Okay. But the cool stuff that they did kind of introduce was this idea of a zombie hierarchy. Like the original zombie is kind of smart.
Okay.
And like the main zombie literally wears like a metal helmet because the only way you can kill a zombie was with a headshot. So he protects his head. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. And like the smart zombies, they say like, oh, it's kind of like Las Vegas has kind of turned into their kingdom. And like if you make a sacrifice for them, they'll leave you alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're semi smart kind of stuff. And then like the head smart zombie has like a queen and she's pregnant.
Huh.
With
okay.
his
there's a pregnant zombie.
Yes, the two
and some of these
zombies
have the ability to speak and they're sentient.
No, they don't speak. They're just like animalistic, like, but they're kind of smart. Like like Velociraptors, like clever girl.
Yeah,
like that shit.
Yeah.
You know. Like they can make tool. He literally rides a zombie horse. Like into battle and shit like that. And they can like dodge. And try to avoid bullets and stuff like that, but they're still animalistic. They can't speak. They communicate through like growls and like crackling. But they make it clear like he has his queen or whatever is pregnant.
So many questions.
Yeah. And I assume they want you to have questions because it's like I guess they're doing like a universe or whatever.
Yeah. Is that real? Are they doing that universe?
They are doing a prequel film with one of the members of like the group, the Safecracker.
Oh, okay.
And then they're doing an animated series.
Netflix is doing all this.
Yes, Netflix is doing this, chronicling the fall of Las Vegas. Because the fall of Las Vegas literally happens during the credit sequence. Mm-hmm. And then you're just dealing afterwards, right? Like, okay, we gotta go in and stuff like that. So I guess it's like they're really hedging their bets on this hard, right?
Wow.
As far as the movie goes, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was way too long. How
was the visual spectacle of it, though?
There's some neat action scenes, some neat visuals. But like the story and characters weren't there for me.
They never really are there for me in terms of anything Snyder related. What about slow motion?
Not that much. Very minimal.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. And Bautista, how was he?
Bautista's good. I just didn't like his storyline. Sure. But as an actor, he was good, right? Like I feel this would be such a better film if they just cut the time like almost in half.
It's the same thing you said with the Justice League.
Yes, lightened up a bit in the film because they take it a little bit too seriously sometimes. Again, Zack Snyder. And yeah, I think that would make the film a lot better. But as it is, like I was entertained. I had fun, but I wouldn't be rushing out to be like, oh my god, you guys have to see this movie.
What about this makes you feel why Netflix is looking at this like their own kind of mini franchise?
I don't know. Maybe
because it almost feels like this is a couple years late. Like the whole zombie thing, hasn't it died down by now?
Oh, very much.
Like, remember when vampires were the thing, like in the late 2000s, like 2009, when Twilight came on the scene? Then there was the Vampire Diaries, and then zombies came with The Walking Dead, and then other zombie like World War Z or even Overlord. But even then, to an extent, at that point in 2018, it still was it was waning at that interesting time. My question then becomes, what do you think Netflix sees in this, and do you feel like the whole zombie thing is just kind of done now? Like,
well, like I said, I do think oh shit, I hit the mic.
That's all right. Everybody here does it at one point, and David does it at least twice a week.
Calling you out, David, you bitch.
It's okay.
No, he called you bitch.
sure.
I think Zack Snyder, to be really fair to him, well, that's the thing. He's been trying to make this film for over a decade.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So, but WB he even says like, well, now that they've broken up, I think he's more vocal about everything. And he's like, yeah, they never knew how to sell the film, so it just never really got anywhere. Mm-hmm. And then the first time I took it to Netflix, they're like, all right, cool, go make it. So I'm sure. So, and I think that's the thing, right? Big blockbuster from Zack Snyder. I think that's what sold them on it. They're like, oh, wow, like we have this big, named, like, big Hollywood studio of talent. Like, let's grab them. Let's keep them happy. Oh, yeah. And then also, like, it is a pretty, I feel like, broad appeal idea, like, right? Like, heist zombies, film in Vegas meet zombies. Like,
yeah. Zombies, I don't think are ever going to go out of fashion entirely. I meant to say, like, there was this point in time where, like, they were the thing, right? There was like a gimmick almost, like people were latching on to for other projects. That isn't to say that anything zombie will ever like not be appealing. It will always have an audience. It will always have a base. But like, it makes a lot of sense to you saying that this was something that Snyder was maybe trying to capitalize at the time where it needed to be capitalized on. And here it's come out a couple years too late. Although how that would have affected the movie in terms of quality, I'm not so sure. I mean, you know,
I think it's better that they waited.
Sure.
Because I remember reading an article a while back, a long while back, talking about this pitch, and I even think it's come out recently, like the original pitch. And again, this is peak edgy Snyder. Like originally the zombies transferred the contagion through like rape.
Oh God.
Yeah. Thankfully that changed in the script over the years. It kind
of had to, didn't it? Yeah. The world changed, so that can't happen anymore.
So I think it's probably better they waited. And there's a zombie tiger that does maul someone pretty damn bad. It's pretty good.
So it delivers on gore?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of violence, a lot of gore. And there are some like neat, like I said, there's neat ideas. Like they have to, at one point they go through a building and like all the zombies are like stuck in like their like positions. And they're like, oh, they're hibernating.
Oh God, really?
Yeah, so it's like we can move through them, but we got to be really fucking quiet. Don't touch them. Don't do anything. And of course, shit don't go according to plan. But it was a really good sequence. It was tense. It's like, oh fuck, So he does incorporate a lot of really neat ideas. Like there's one thing I wish they had shown it, but they didn't. How like right when they enter Las Vegas, there's like piles and piles and piles of like dead skeletons. Like basically skeletons, right? Like
right.
There's nothing of them, and it's like a sea of them, and they're like, what happened to them? They're like, they're the dumbest of the zombies. They weren't smart to get out of the sun, so they just kind of baked, and that's what happened to them. They should said, but sometimes when it rains, it'll bring them back for a little bit. And I was like, okay. That's interesting. That's kind of fucked up. I thought, but they never do anything with it. Like they just kind of offhandedly say it. I thought it would have been cool to bring that back at some point, but yeah. No, it's okay. It's an enjoyable time. Just too long. So yeah, that's what I saw.
All right. You were talking about comics a while back. Did you ever finish Invincible?
I did. I told you. I ran through the 3 compendium, omnibus, whatever, in like a week.
Oh, so you've long since
I have
finished.
long since finished, yes.
Gotcha, all right.
I ran through that shit.
Oh boy. Oh, that's a lot. All right, we'll get to that when we talk about Invincible later on in the show. let's get into some news that broke this week. So there was a trailer. I don't know if there were any others, and I wouldn't be the person you'd ask, honestly. So if there was something that you saw as far as the trailer was concerned, by all means mention it. But there was a trailer for Dear Evan Hansen, which is a musical coming out later this year. It is an adaptation of a musical for Broadway of the same name, Dear Evan Hansen, and it has the same actor leading in this movie as it did in the Broadway show, which is Ben Platt. And so the trailer came out, and I really love the music of Dear Evan Hansen.
Oh, so you're really familiar with this?
I'm familiar with the music, yeah.
Okay.
I have the soundtrack. I love the music. I love Ben Platt. And from what I've seen, heard, it's great. But I, of course, wouldn't have access to see the actual thing when it was, like, on
You're
Broadway.
You're a commoner, we know.
Of course, I'm a commoner. And, yeah, I don't go to plays, so there's that. This one is interesting because it's been pointed out that with Dear Evan Hansen, this is going to be an interesting year for musicals. We don't usually, like, I don't know, there aren't many musicals that come out in a given year, but like you have this alongside In the Heights, which some reviews are coming out for now. Mm-hmm. Then there's West Side Story. And then I believe there's one other one. I don't remember, but there's, and all of these could potentially like compete against each other at the Academy Awards. And so that's going to be an interesting race in terms of how all of that shakes out. I wasn't crazy about the trailer. It was exactly what you would expect it to be. Mm-hmm. And if you're familiar with the story, it's very surface level. Some things are actually kind of given away in the trailer. The thing that people have been talking about, and you know how it is on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I even discussed this with Alexis, who also is a fan of the music for Dear Evan Hansen. And she's far more versed in the ways of Broadway than the rest of us. That's just how she is. And we both came to a really instantaneous conclusion, and that is there was something very off about, and I feel scummy even pointing this out, but I mean, who am I to say anything? But like there was something off about Ben Platt's appearance in the trailer. And Morena was telling me as she was reacting to the trailer, like there's something about this that I don't know, I can't put my finger on, but something here looks weird about him that looks weird. And I was telling her it's the curly hair, and this is what we've been reduced to on Twitter, and that is we are now having a back and forth over how curly or not Ben Platt's hair is in this, because if you've seen images or photo ops of in the original run, Ben Platt didn't have overly curly hair like he's sporting in this trailer.
You know what? I wish that they would just go the Hamilton route. Just fucking... Like, why aren't these original Broadway runs just filmed and then released to the public?
Money?
But you could make money. Make people pay for it. Like, I don't...
Is it because would they lose the prestige and the esteem that comes with the stage?
I know we're talking about Ben Platt, but I need to bring this up. Having now indulged in quite a few musicals, mostly because of you guys, with like Hamilton and fucking the Paper Boys. I don't know.
Newsies.
Yes, and several I have seen and engaged with like Broadway musicals. I used to think like, oh yes, the Broadway, it's this like higher form of art, and that's what a lot of the way people refer to it. It is like, having now engaged with it, it is the biggest nerd shit I have ever seen, and you just heard me talk about how I'm reading Flintstones comics, okay? But having like just engaged a little bit with Broadway and musical culture, it is the nerdiest fucking shit in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I view it has completely flipped. Not negatively. I don't think nerd is a negative connotation necessarily, but it's just funny to me how it was always portrayed as like, yes, this higher form of art. You know, those movies, yuck. You know, we're on Broadway, but Broadway has, I'd say, like, they're engaging with a Broadway musical, I'd say, is about on the same level as engaging with like a Marvel film. It's not this like higher, I don't know, right? Like, it's nerd stuff, which I think is cool. I think that's fun, but I don't know. It's,
well, I mean, there's the long-standing, I guess, classification or category of nerds that is being the theater kids, theater nerds.
Yes, the original nerds.
Yeah, I don't know if they are the original ones, but they are some of the loudest ones.
Okay, but no, you know what? I'll say this: I saw a lot of people screaming about how like this kid doesn't look like a teenager. I don't know what the fuck it was for, but I just saw pictures and I'm like, he doesn't. Like, that there's clearly makeup, which again, they couldn't have DCG'd. They had to go the makeup route because it looks like he's kind of wearing a mask. But honestly, at like having watched the trailer, about a minute in, like, I stopped noticing.
Yeah,
it's not that big a deal.
No, it isn't.
Again, maybe if you followed like I don't fucking know, the original Broadway musical from the beginning and
Dear Evan Hansen, right?
Yeah, like maybe it's a big deal to you, but me, who has no idea what the fuck this is or what it's about, watching it, I'm like, oh, he looks a little not in high school, and then I forget it like a minute later. Like, okay.
If you looked at some of the, I mean, I think he did a much better job of passing for it when the show was on Broadway, like several years ago. But but Ben Platt still has a youthful appearance to him. He's like in his
he's not
mid-20s.
Decrepit. Like, he's but I think what makes it worse is they put a fucking mask on him, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not just like some makeup. They put like a literal like.
A prosthetic?
Like a prosthetic face stuff? I don't know. And it makes him look not human entirely. And it doesn't work. If you're going to do it, do some light CG smoothing. And then take a step back. Like, I don't know.
I will see it only to hear Ben Platt sing because he's one of the best vocalists. He's a great singer, and it's interesting because we have here the original Evan Hansen in the play translating to the screen, and I think he did win what are they called, the Tonys? The Broadway, they called the Tonys, right? He won the Tony for Best Leading Actor, I think, that year for Evan Hansen. So there's definitely a lot to live up to. I think no one really doubts him at this point. But what I am curious to see in terms of how it's received, not just for general audiences, but also for critics, I wonder how they're going to do it because, you know, Dear Evan Hansen came out the exact same time as Hamilton, so there are like these comparisons between that and Hamilton. I know like at some point Disney will do the Hamilton movie, but the question remains is, and I asked this question to Kyle Lira and Alexis Moreno if they would like to see Lin-Manuel Miranda come back and lead. I personally would not. Alexis, also, who is a huge fan, the biggest maybe ever, of Lin-Manuel, also would like. She even said she rather would someone else take on the role of Lin-Manuel in the film adaptation.
The thing is, he is Hamilton.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. Like, that's. When people think Lin-Manuel Miranda, they think Hamilton, right? Like, that is his role.
But they also think, man, he is by far the weakest performer of the entire ensemble.
Still, though, I don't think that matters too much to people. I think they would still rather just have that nostalgia Hamilton, you know, stuff in his face. As far as the trailer goes, by the way, I would like to see a Hamilton film, and this is the reason why. I'm not that excited for Dear Benny Boy,
Evan
Hansen, that guy, because it seems like they just sing, and I like a little pizzazz to my musicals, you know. And
but wait a minute, that's Lin-Manuel's thing.
No,
that's all,
but
Hamilton was all singing.
Okay, no. You misunderstand me. They don't just sing; they dance. There's choreography. There's stuff. There's that cool thing where like they reverse time. There's a lot going into it visually. That's what I mean. Yeah. Not just singing.
No, there's not much dancing at all.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything much visually. So it feels like it's going to be like a regular teen drama with music, which again, 100% could work. But I'm not as excited because I like the song and dance. Because films are visual media. Might as well go all the way.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I wonder though, since we're on, I guess, this particular topic, anything interesting that you've absorbed from some of the early reactions of In the Heights, which is fast approaching, I would say.
Interesting? No. Predictable?
Interesting
yes.
takes that people have had.
No, because I think the takes are predictable. I agree. The director,
John
Chu. I agree with what's her name,
Miss Randolph.
Miss Randolph, on her take that he just he comes off kind of like director for hire.
That's what I was gonna say. Like he I would think like he is like the poster boy for director for hire, and that is you direct movies, but you have no signature style, flair, stamp of any kind. There's no vision really. You're just there to hold the camera and do it well.
Yes. And that's absolutely, like, I 100% believe that. And then of course it's a Lin-Manuel Miranda musical, so it's cheesy, it's over the top, it's got good music, like all this stuff, like it's like, yeah, this is basically what I expected. I don't know, were there stuff for you where you're like,
Well, there was something that caught my interest where I think it was Ms. Randolph who said that there, or maybe even some other headlines were implying that perhaps it was too joyous for its own good, that it was nothing but that, which, I don't know, makes me worry that it's maybe all surface level. There's not any, like, because
like I said again, it's a Lin-Manuel Miranda musical.
It is, but I know that you had mentioned in our previous discussion that you were interested in, that it was your belief that perhaps the film would lean into some real emotional connection.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first was all about like, we are dreamers, you know. Oh no, what's happening to it? They show them crying and stuff like that. The slow music in the first trailer of In the Heights
that we saw like 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I think that one's been the best trailer. It's a really good trailer. It made me go like, yeah, this is fun, this is nice. And again, there is dancing. So I'm like, okay, there's visually, there is different-ish things going on. Just musical world stuff. Like they're dancing on the side of a building. There's some they're in a pool doing dances. It's like, okay, that's fun. But maybe I kind of feel like some reviewers maybe underestimate how much people want fun musicals. Like people that go to see musicals, they just want to jazz hand it up.
Have fun.
Yeah.
It's how to have fun. The real question, though, is how will any of these, Dear Evan Hansen, West Side Story, and The Heights, compare to the last musical we all saw in theaters, which was Cats?
Oh, God. That beauty. Can you believe he who shall not be named tried to make us leave the film early when we were having a magical Mr. Mistopheles time, and
I still think about watching that movie in the theater. I had so much fun watching that movie.
It was fun. It was fun.
I'd do it again.
I'd love to go to a screening with a good crowd, you know?
Yeah.
who knows why we're all there, and we just, but we didn't get that kind of crowd, but we still had a good time. But yeah, no, there's a lot of musicals, and again, I think this goes back to what I was saying. I think the reason why there's so many musicals being made now is because, much like the comic book and Star Wars shit, the fans are massive nerds,
Yeah.
So they're like, yes, oh my god, oh, the trailer dropped, oh my god, I can't wait to see. You got that fan base to sell it to, which, I mean, yeah, that's neat, go get it. What other I have no idea about like musicals. There's probably a whole bunch of other musicals that people are like, oh my god, wouldn't it be cool if they adapted this one or this one and stuff like that. And I hope that happens. I think that's neat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, musicals are one thing, but there's a whole bunch of stage plays that get adapted that you wouldn't even realize. Some are more obvious than others, like One Night in Miami, which I think we've discussed in the past year. But one of our upcoming reviews, The Father with Anthony Hopkins, that was adapted off a stage play. And the creator of that, Florian Zeller, also adapted into the movie. Okay. So, interesting stuff coming up.
I really enjoyed One Night in Miami. So.
Oh yeah, it was really, really well done. Yeah, that is interesting, huh? I wonder how it all... one of the things that people were bringing attention to this week was how, of all the years for the Golden Globes to fuck up and get canceled, it was this year. There are this many musicals in the running, and they have a whole category
about musicals.
Like, it's called comedy or musical, and now, like, well, that's gone.
That's such a weird thing to throw together, like,
right?
Comedy or musical. Because, like, you could technically have, like, I don't know, Adam Sandler's Jack and Jill with Les Miserables, in the same fucking category. And it's just weird that they would divide it that way.
The only thing about I even though it's awful to me, the only reason to watch Jack and Jill is to just watch Al Pacino phone it in and just catch a check. It was hilarious. It's
so much fun seeing legends cash a check.
Yeah.
You're saying, good for you. Pay off that second boat.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the trailer for Dear Evan Hansen. So Knives Out, we've discussed how they have been adding more and more to their ensemble. So I believe last week we talked about how Catherine Hahn and Edward Norton, as well as Dave Bautista and also Janelle Monáe were in the cast. Now this week they've added 2 more A-listers. Leslie Odom Jr., speaking of Hamilton, and One Night in Miami. Here's Leslie Odom Jr., and then also Kate Hudson joined the cast. Your thoughts on that?
I love Leslie Odom Jr. I think he's amazing. I think he's great. And I told you, like, this guy's gonna blow up because I don't think, how can he not? I think he's like super, super talented. Yeah. So when I saw him, I was like, yes. Like he's like, if I'm looking at my favorites, it's like him, Dave Bautista, Agatha, like those yeah.
Harkness.
Agatha. But then some of the choices, I'm like, damn, these are the hottest names of 2002. Do you notice that?
Kate Hudson, Edward Norton, yeah.
And I'm like, this is interesting. Because I don't remember the last time Kate Hudson knows anything. I think Kate Hudson's cool, right?
I was going to ask you, like, I can't remember the last time I've heard Kate Hudson's name.
Yeah. I think she's like, I like her. I think she's really cool, but it's like,
Right.
Like, he's getting some of the hottest names of the late 90s, early 2000s for this.
So you're saying that Kirsten Dunst is next?
I hope so. She's amazing. But I think that also tells me he's casting very specific, right?
Yeah.
Like he's not just going like, okay, the hottest names that are like, you can tell when a list like a cat like what's the word? A cast.
A cast list, an ensemble.
An ensemble is like, okay, who is the hottest name of right now? And then they go down the list, and then they're just like, poof, 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 poof. They get all the top ones. You can totally tell when they do that. But I feel with him, he gets, some of them happen to be hot names right now, but other ones it's like, oh fuck, I haven't seen them in a minute, but they're awesome.
Yeah.
And this is and I really like that, because it's like,
well, look at the previous ensemble. You had Toni Collette, Jamie Lee Curtis, Lakeith Stanfield, Daniel Craig, Chris Evans, Michael Shannon, and then you have a new, relatively new one in Ana de Armas. You also had Christopher Plummer.
Yeah.
A great ensemble.
And I think what's cool about that, I think what's kind of adds to the fun of these films specifically, is seeing that it's not just an amazing cast, it's a varied cast. Like, I never thought I would see this group of actors play off of each other, right?
Yeah.
Like Michael Shannon, like, eat your fucking cookies to Chris Evans, while like, 13 Reasons Why girl is calling the fucking kid from It a Nazi. Like,
yep.
The varied cast is what makes it really fun. So that's why I'm really excited to see what kind of characters they play off of,
Not enough, I think, was talked about how great of an asshole Chris Evans played.
Oh, fantastic.
In that film.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Rian Johnson, and I think you and I are in agreement on this, is in that category of filmmakers where they have such a excellent track record, and as you say, Rian Johnson has never made a less than great film. So he's in that special category where anything he's doing, it doesn't matter what the story is, doesn't matter who is involved, it gets us excited.
Yeah.
I think it's extraordinary, just as a little bit of an aside here, that Johnson single-handedly is reviving this genre, the murder mysteries or the mystery thrillers. I love this.
Yeah.
It's like a long-standing tribute to Agatha Christie at this point. At the same time, while I'm so excited to see these next movies, how can you top that first one, though? How can you top that first one? That movie is, it's only like, what, 2 years old at this point? Not even 2 years old, I think. But it is one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years, one of my favorite movies ever. It is, I think, for me, one of the, even though you would think it wouldn't be because it's a murder mystery, one of the most rewatchable movies ever.
It's very rewatchable. It's one of those films that at any point in the film, if I catch a glimpse of it, I'm sitting down and I'm watching the rest. Because it's so entertaining throughout. Yeah. This is way too soon to use this kind of wordage, I guess, but it plays like a classic to me. Like, I really, really love it. And I think the way you get around that is don't try to make a wildly different film. Right, like, and
I mean, they're taking place in Greece. It's a different part of the world. It's a very different dynamic, considering on these casting choices. It's not based on one family.
Yeah, it does not seem like they are family.
So
going off the cast, like, I don't think anyone here seems related.
I'm personally rooting for Mark Hamill or Kelly Marie trying to get into this cast.
Kelly Marie,
somehow.
God damn it, come on, do it. No,
are there any actors that are you're like hoping are going to be involved in this?
Kelly Marie, Mark Hamill, and I know these are very obvious. Like,
I mean, he's worked with them in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Other ones, I'm trying to think. I really like the outside the box picks.
I love that.
I love the ones where it's like, oh man, now that you mention it, fuck yeah. Oh, Nathan Lane. I think that's a neat outside the box pick.
Yes, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
Oh,
he's
like the
really
way like
perfect.
Frank Oz came in just for a bit.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I was like, oh,
Mhm.
this is so fun. This is so cool, and he was great. Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I really, I like how you can have those like super ultra A-listers. They're there, and
Yeah.
then you have these really fun like, oh man, I wouldn't think about picking this person, but I love that they're here. Like those are the picks. But yeah, I don't know. Like I'd have to think more, but yeah, Nathan Lane's one I threw out there. It'd be cool.
I wouldn't mind seeing more of Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah. Yo, yeah. Especially because Anthony Hopkins, it seems, has a very fun side to him. Like
Yeah.
he seems to
yeah.
enjoy doing silly shit,
Yeah.
but his movies never allow that.
Oh no. No.
So I would love for a film to just allow Anthony Hopkins just go full silly shit.
Someone who's hot right now is Olivia Colman.
Yes, that would be very nice. Yes. No, she's great. I agree. Yeah.
It's a lot of great options, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of them to do. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. All right, next in the news, Rick and Morty. By the way, Rick and Morty Season 5 is fast approaching next month. The 10-episode Season 5 is coming, but it also seems like Adult Swim has ordered a spinoff based on The Vindicators. Do you buy it or sell it, as the old Collider crew used to say.
Oh, that's right. They did say that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Sell it. Sell it hard. I feel like The Vindicators was a one-off gag about
It's a great episode.
It was a good episode, but I would even say it's one of their weaker ones, right? Like I don't even think they completely fulfilled the gag they were going for.
Right.
But it's like kind of the whole point is how bullshit they are.
Mm-hmm.
And very non-consequential to anything going on. Like they're stupid. Very, again, the typical nihilism of Rick and Morty. So to have like a spin-off series doesn't make sense to me. The only way I think it would work is if they kind of go spoilers Invincible with it. Mm. And it like starts off with like a new Vindicators, and then they all die like in the very beginning of the episode, and then the Vindicators is actually a sneak what's his name? Nub show. The Noob, the one that was their fucking janitor.
Oh, I don't know the name, but I know who you're talking
You
about.
remember? He's like, where he was the only one who would laugh at
basically, yeah.
And like the whole show is actually about him. I'd be like, okay, maybe something like that. But no, this just feels like
cash grab.
Yeah, it's all cash grab shit.
Yeah.
Especially because, I don't think this show's a cash grab. But I imagine any Rick and Morty spinoff would literally just be this show, which is Solar Opposites, which is the other animated show that the creator, what's his name? Justin Roiland.
Oh.
He made it. It's his animated show that's not, but he didn't make it with Harmon. So it's a lot more. It's just the straight up silly crazy shit. You know what I mean? Like if you squeeze out the Harmon and just have the Roiland part, that's what it is of Rick and Morty. And I feel like any spinoff would kind of just be that. So I don't know how you would do a spinoff at all. But, you know, you got to make money.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have really no interest in this whatsoever. Probably won't watch it.
No.
In the spirit of buying or selling and spin-offs, because Rick and Morty aren't the only ones getting their own spin-off, Sandy Cheeks is getting a live-action / animated hybrid spin-off. Why?
They're
I
really
don't know.
going hard on squeezing every ounce of that sponge out. And man, I'm over it.
They really don't need to, do they? It's like the show is still running at this point.
It's still
like
running.
Yeah.
And of course, me being old as shit, maybe this is just my opinion, but like, no, I think a lot of people hold this opinion. It hasn't been good since those first.
3 seasons, maybe 4.
Yeah, I don't remember how many, but like those first seasons, very funny, really good. Hillenberg, of course.
For me, I go like the first 3 seasons, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, and then what I thought was really good, considering it hadn't been good for a long time, was Sponge Out of Water.
Yeah. And I think that's because Hillenberg came back to do that one. And that's why all of a sudden it's like, oh, fuck, where has this been this whole time? But yeah, like the show's still going, and I don't even think it's been good. And then they're having like, man, every you know how like sometimes in films they say like, you've jumped the shark when you go to space. I think for kids shows, you've jumped the shark when you start doing baby versions of the show, right? So Camp Coral.
Yep.
It's
Muppet Babies. But for
it's
SpongeBob.
Muppet Babies. It's the baby version.
Baby Looney Tunes.
Every time you're like, okay, we're jumping the shark. Just make this a baby version of what you already have. And now, yeah, sell it, I guess. Are we still doing that? So
yeah, well, for this one, because it's an upcoming project, I don't care. I'll never watch this.
yeah,
I don't know who would care to watch this, but
the SpongeBob cinematic universe is dead.
I am curious to see, though. I mentioned last week that the iCarly reboot is upcoming at Paramount Plus. That Rugrats reboot apparently is about to drop. So I'm curious to see how people are going to react to that.
I saw the trailer, and not for me. And I was excited. I was like, oh, Rugrats. I love it. That's another one. There's so many cartoons I want to, like, how we were talking about all the DC shit, like,
yeah, you want to watch again,
there's so much shit I just want to go back, and one of them is Rugrats, and just like
I did see that Rugrats had a recent Blu-ray release of the whole series collection.
Yeah.
So for those who still collect physical media out there,
the few, the proud,
the proud, yeah. We have an update for one of the upcoming Star Wars shows at Disney Plus, and a reminder: Peter and I happen to be one of the 5 people on the planet that do not like The Mandalorian whatsoever.
I think it's down to 4-3 now.
Maybe it's down to 4-3, right? So just so you know that, and because of it, and if you want to know our reasons, just look at our history. There's a whole Mandalorian Season 2 review from January. Go back and listen to that one. I think it's almost a 3-hour show. I don't remember how long it was, but it was a review on the 2nd season. But we also have said that we are not interested in just about every single last one of the shows that are in development for Disney Plus as far as Star Wars is concerned. The one that we really are kind of angry about, especially because of how it's been promoted and sold, is the Obi-Wan show. Mm-hmm. Calling it the rematch at the century was, I think, to us, fucking disgusting, and it kind of misses, and it's just every reason why you wouldn't want to watch that show. Another show, which was also confusing because it felt very much like other projects that were being announced, and it was originally planned for Gina Carano's, what's her name? The character, Cara Dune, to be the lead in this, and that is Rangers of the New Republic. And the update that we got this week is that it is no longer in development.
Active development. So that means at the least, most, I don't know which one to use, it's on the back burner.
It can still happen, but it's not one of the priorities any longer.
Mm-hmm. It seems like when the Mandalorian really took the country by storm. The
really.
world. It's like, okay, give us 50 sort of spin-offs stemming from The Mandalorian. And of course, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni being who they are, they're like, 50? We could do 100, really. You know? So they announced all that shit. Immediately, they went into the Book of Boba Fett and what's her name? Fucking Ahsoka Tano and all that stuff. The one that really was just like, man, I don't give a fuck, is Rangers of the New Republic.
Yeah.
And we talked about this. It's like, I'm so tired of Rebel shit.
Yeah.
Like, just stop. Like, I don't care. And I know at the end of the day, all these shows are basically the same show.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. They're the same fucking show. I know you've been watching
Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch. It's literally
it's the same as
the Clone Wars. It is the Clone Wars.
I like the Clone Wars,
and
so I
know
that.
Yeah, so you loved, obviously. That's why I said you'll like the Bad Batch, because it's gonna be the fucking Clone Wars. Which I guess also adds to your anger that you don't like the Mandalorian, so the Ahsoka Tano show that's kind of taking over for what would have been the Clone Wars.
You guess. Didn't Alexis and I go on a rampage?
You guys did go on,
how pissed we were about that? I'm not over that. I am pissed.
Yes.
We were robbed of that. And they're trashing it. Literally. I'm sorry. Like, I haven't gone back and watched the episode, but even in like clips that I've caught on, I guess when I'm on my phone or on YouTube, and that have like Rosario Dawson's Ahsoka, I'm still not buying it. I'm sorry. I'm still not buying it. Not my Ahsoka. I'm sorry.
See, I'm not as harsh. I can buy it. I just
it ain't
don't
the biggest of my issues. Mm-hmm. It's like the least of my problems.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is I can't connect with what we can call with the Favreau Filoni verse of live action shows. I vastly would have preferred the animated version of this, and we are not getting that, and I hate it because that show is gonna be what it's gonna be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in talking about all of this stuff, I am amazed how little we know about the upcoming season of The Mandalorian. Because I know this time last year, we had so many leaks where we knew all the major players who were going to be cameoing on season 2.
Was it even leaks? I feel like they announced that shit.
No, there were leaks.
Okay. But I remember them just straight up announcing, like, Boba Fett's back. Ahsoka Tano. Like,
they felt like announcements, but they were like...
Well, they haven't even started filming anything yet.
That's another thing. Why not?
Because Boba Fett is going to take over that slot.
Yeah.
That's why.
I know that's the reason why. I just I'm curious as to why we haven't heard more about, like, because my biggest question is, okay, so you know how they left off the second season, so are we really not gonna see that baby again?
I guarantee. You know what? Like, I used to think, like, I guess they're done. I no longer think that. Disney has to mandate. Grogu is too big of a seller.
Yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy, she grabbed Dave Filoni by the balls. She sexually harassed him. That's why she's getting kicked out, by the way. And she grabbed him and she said, "You include that fucking little green baby bitch, or else you're fired. He's the one who makes the money." That's what happened, okay? Because I don't for a second believe that they're going to be able to continue the show and not have him in it.
And it's crazy because that completely renders that last scene useless.
Or they make Luke and the Jedi kind of the main focus of season 3.
On a show called The Mandalorian.
When has this stopped them before?
Okay, true.
In fact, if this was animated, I would guarantee you that would happen. That's what would have happened.
Yeah. Right, but there's a big elephant in the room, and that is they don't seem to want to recast Mark Hamill.
That's true. They might finally just do it and get what's his name?
Sebastian
Stan. I don't know. Because every time I feel like, okay, they're just going to lightly touch on this. They're not going to twist the whole show to focus on this. That's exactly what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is it possible we're going to see a time jump? Maybe the baby can actually talk this time?
But like, any time jump of any relevance would mean that like 400 years would have passed.
Oh, that's right. He doesn't age. I forget. Yeah. I forget about that. They don't age the same way we do, so it doesn't make any difference whatsoever.
But, of course, they'll go like, well, technically, through the Force, these creatures, they get a growth spurt at like 53, and then they're immediately adults or teenagers, and then they grow very slowly afterwards. They'll try to invincible it and say like, yeah, you grow really fast at the beginning, and then your aging slows down. Oh my god, how much you want to bet they tried that shit? But he's been a baby for 50 fucking years. Okay, I don't know.
I'll tell you this: I'm not looking forward to Boba Fett.
No, not at all.
Well, for a different reason. Like, I think part of me is looking forward to the show to see if I can get any laughs out of it personally. But part of me is also, or most of me is just thankful we don't have a show of that scale of this franchise on, because I'll tell you this, the show in and of itself, really, it's fine. And then there are moments where it's like, it's really not great. But the reason for why it creates such animosity from us to it is how the world reacts to it. There's nothing more annoying in recent memory than how people have reacted to weekly episodes of The Mandalorian with just this unanimous, deafening praise that goes on forever and ever.
It's somewhat frustrating, but I think what bothers me more is how do I put it? It's this thing of like, it's like, okay, like I'm me being such a huge Star Wars fan and the things that I like, I used to think, okay, there's the kind of Star Wars I like, and there's the kind of Star Wars that other people like, different kinds of Star Wars. And there's going to be so many shows and so many movies. I understand not everything that comes out is going to be for me. But every once in a while, a project will come out, a movie, a show, whatever. And it'll be like, okay, that's my kind of Star Wars. And I can focus on that, and everyone else can focus on the other stuff. With The Mandalorian, it's just kind of cemented this thing of like, okay, like that Star Wars that's not going to happen. Like, it's just going to be this kind of Star Wars. And it's like, oh man, kind of depressing if you love this shit. But then it's also like, I'll move on. I got Dune. I got other fun sci-fi shit.
Yeah, there's more than enough stuff to keep entertained. And for those who are wondering what Peter's even talking about, again, I'll refer you to our Mandalorian episode from January, where Peter breaks down really eloquently, perhaps the most eloquent he's ever been, in terms of like what Star Wars means to him. And of course, Star Wars means different things to different people. So, as we are aware of that. Next story. Kevin Feige calls his decision to hire a non-Asian actor in the form of Tilda Swinton for the role of the Ancient One in Doctor Strange. He called that decision a mistake. I think he spoke about how that they all felt they were being edgy by casting Tilda Swinton in that role. And, well, that really backfired on them. And people who are not aware, it was a very, very controversial backlash when they announced it, especially because it came around the same time. Remember, this was around the same time where Scarlett Johansson was cast as the lead for Ghost in the Shell. And remember that the studio that made Ghost in the Shell spent extra money on the visual effects to make her look more Asian, because she's not Asian in a role that was supposed to be for an Asian actor. What do you think about his comments here?
All I heard is that he regrets hiring a woman, and I think that's utterly disgusting.
It's not what he said. He said he regrets not hiring. He regrets not hiring an Asian actor.
Yeah, and again, I think shit changes so fast now. It really, really does. And I think this is just a sign of that, right? Like, at the time, it was this thing of like, yes, we want representation, but it was still that sort of era of like, let's try and wiggle around it still. Like, well, technically, whatever excuse they gave at the time for that. And then also the stuff with China, because Tibet and China, and they didn't want to wade into that war, especially because China makes up a big portion of the box office.
And also around the same time, remember the story about Crazy Rich Asians? There were some studios that were insistent that they do a movie called Crazy Rich Asians without having to hire any Asian actors.
You're lying.
No, that's a real story.
How would that work? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
That's a true story.
All right.
It's a true
That's
story.
Hollywood for you. But yeah, now we're at the time where it's like, no. Shit has changed so fast where it's like, not only do you have to hire Asians, the whole cast has to be Asian. You know, that lighter guy who shines that one light in that one scene, he better be fucking Asian. So yeah, things change very quickly nowadays. And I've talked about this. If you look at the way things were 2 years ago to now, it's like, wow, a lot has changed. 4 years ago, wow, a lot has changed. 5 years ago, wow, a lot has changed. And I feel I don't know, maybe this is just my bias because I live here in the now and not in the past. But I feel in the past, shit moved more slowly.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah.
And I feel
could just be our age.
Could be the age. I think a lot of it has to do with the internet, though.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, we're living in a post-2017 world. 2017 was the Me Too movement, and everything changed as far as the entertainment industry and all industries. And then we're also living in a post-Trump era and a but in the waning, hopefully waning moments of the pandemic era. A lot of eras.
Yeah, but I do think it's just a lot of people are fed up. And they demand, they're tired of slow change and they want quicker change, which I could not agree more with in many aspects of society. So yeah, I think that's interesting.
Woody Allen can't make movies here anymore, which is, I think, a good progress. You know, whereas 5 years ago he still got away with making movies here.
All A-list actors too.
Yep.
And then a lot of them were like, yeah, I just didn't know what I was thinking. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, just admit you knew you didn't care enough. And now it's like, yeah, I guess I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, I guess it is a big deal, huh? At the time, I didn't even think about it. But like a lot of them like try to be like, oh, I was gaslit, or
well, you showed me that very. I think it was hard to believe. I thought I was watching a parody, but you showed me this clip of the Academy Awards from the early 2000s where Roman Polanski won Best Director, and everyone in the audience Martin Scorsese gave it a standing ovation. And Polanski couldn't be there obviously to accept his award because he would have been arrested on site. He couldn't come back to the country.
Because he raped a 13-year-old girl, and all of Hollywood collectively stood up and cheered. And I'm talking A-listers from top to bottom. And it's okay. And I just really wish they would be more honest and go, yeah, I didn't think it was that big a deal. I looked the other way. And now I don't think I should. Like, there's a clip going around. I saw it of what's his name? The royal who
Prince Harry
with Meghan Markle.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how candid he is about his growth.
Isn't that remarkable?
Mm-hmm.
I saw some of those clips as well, and I was like, wow, he comes across like an actual human person.
Yeah, and the reason, because he's like, yeah, like I didn't see it, or I didn't care, and like I had to change. I had to make a change. I had to stop, and I'm like, I believe this so much more than the people that try to pretend like they were always good. You know, like, oh no, I always had the right positions, right? It's just, I don't know. But yeah.
Can you believe, though, that Prince Harry is as old now as his mother was, Princess Diana, when she passed away?
Yeah. I think it's pretty sickening that we still have princes at all and princesses. And I think Prince Harry and Princess Diana would probably agree with that.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. And of course, Feige is such a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
He's very diplomatic, and he knows to change with the times.
Well, Marvel more than made up for that mistake with, how big Black Panther was, and then also with Shang-Chi and the casting there.
Yeah, but they did it because they noticed times have changed. Okay, let's change.
Well, yeah.
Let's try. And yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That's true. Well, HBO Max, they were in the news a lot this week, and they have ordered 2 Harry Potter shows. But not really, though. One of them is a quiz show.
Ooh.
So I think a Harry Potter trivia I don't know what this is.
Trying to capitalize on those millennials.
I guess so, but then they're also commemorating the 20th anniversary of the Sorcerer's Stone with a special retrospective. In other words, a documentary. This is the best it can do? Really? This is the best it can do? Like, take your fumbling Grindelwald franchise and then just do the rest of it, and if you can salvage it. I don't know if it can be salvaged, honestly, at this point, but do something more than a quiz show?
Yeah.
A retrospective?
But I mean, honestly, I don't know anything Harry Potter related that could be announced that could get me excited. Like,
they fucked it up with the Crimes of Grindelwald.
They fucked it up because that's exactly what it could have been. Like a prequel show showing like young Dumbledore and the original Dark Lord and in that war that went on, and it's on HBO Max. So guess what? You could go full gay. You don't have to pussyfoot around it where it's like, oh yes, we're very close, and it's like, fuck you. So you could actually not be cowards and maybe do something interesting character wise, but they completely fucked that up. You know what? J.K. Rowling fucked it up because I'm pretty sure they gave her like complete creative control.
Didn't she write the screenplay?
Yes.
It's the same people. She wrote the screenplay. David Yates, who directed the last couple of Harry Potter films, also, like, they have the exact same team as they did in the early 2010s. Like, you have to shake it up. You have to get new blood in there.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, no one wants to hear anything from J.K. Rowling anymore. She's really destroyed her brand.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, her storytelling has taken a nosedive, clearly.
Yeah.
When it comes to these characters. She's kind of George Lucas did, where she's become too obsessed with all the little details and like, oh, well, this person is actually related to that person. And then actually, if this and this and that. And then it's like, fuck, just give me real, relatable characters that I can give a fuck about. That's kind of all Harry Potter was in the beginning.
It's just sad to see this franchise take such a nosedive.
Mm-hmm. But the Wizarding World at Universal Studios is pretty fucking cool.
that's the only thing that's keeping it alive at this point, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zack Snyder, hey, we're back to him. He says that he banned chairs from the set of Army of the Dead. He says, there's no sitting down. Like, I banned chairs from the set. But the nice thing is, it's really intimate. I can just talk to the actors right there. I'm not backing the monitor across the room. It was definitely the most purely engaged I've been making a movie. How nice for you, Zach. Help me understand this? When did wanting to sit down because you were tired on a long day working or having to go take a bathroom break become such a fucking crime? Like, you know what's been in the news lately with Amazon, like being very like anal about their workers? You know, they're not allowing them to take bathroom breaks. And there have even been stories of Amazon employees dying in the bathroom, about how overworked and exhausted they've been. Like, when did this become such a calamity that they can't be allowed to go to take care of their personal business? They can't even sit down on a movie set.
Especially because movie sets, like, those are long, grueling hours where for a lot of people, nothing happens. Right? like, okay, I'm not in this scene and they're going to be filming.
They're just there.
They're going to be filming the scene for about the next 4 hours, but I can't leave because I'm going to be in the next scene. So I got to wait maybe 4.5, 5 hours until I can come in and do my part. So it's like, you just want me to stand for that long? Like, oh God. And Zack Snyder's a cool dude. I don't think it comes from a bad place, but again, it is that sort of like, no, like I'm an artist, you know, it's gonna be intimate. It's gonna, like, no one sit down. We gotta maintain this energy, like all of this, and it's just like, no, fuck you. Just let people sit down. Like, just get. I get what you're trying to do, but I think it's ridiculous. I think that's going too far.
It's stupid.
I think it's dumb. Let people sit down.
Well, Variety and Culture Crave have actually created a graphic keeping track of the streaming wars, basically, and what are the current estimates of how each streamer has in terms of subscribers. Now, I'm going to give you the ranking and then also the number of subscribers, but you also keep in mind this very important caveat. It's not an apples to apples comparison because some of these streamers release their worldwide numbers only. Mm-hmm. Some of these streamers release both their worldwide and their their country by country numbers as well. Some of these streamers are only available in the States, and so they can only account for that. They're not available worldwide. So take this for what you will, obviously, right? So here's where we are. At number 1, Netflix, available all over the world. Their worldwide numbers are 207.6 million subscribers. Also, another caveat, some of these subscription services, like in the case of Amazon Prime or Prime Video, you get Prime Video if you're subscribed to the Amazon Prime delivery service. Or in the case of Apple TV Plus, you get a free subscription if you've bought an Apple product in the last year. Or in the case of Peacock, where you can just basically get it for free if you want. Mm-hmm. So take note of all of these different caveats. So Amazon Prime, number 2, with 175 million subscribers worldwide. And number 3 is Disney Plus with 103.6 million subscribers. Number 4, Apple TV Plus with 42.6 million subscribers. At number 5 is Peacock with 42 million subscribers. At number 6 is Hulu with 41.6 million subscribers. At number 7 is HBO Max with 40.6 million subscribers. And in 8th and current last place is the new Paramount Plus, around 9 million subscribers or so. And they just went online like what? A couple months back?
Yeah.
Or they rebranded. They used to be CBS All Access. Now they're Paramount Plus. any takeaways from this? Because there's some interesting rankings here.
Well, you tell me what you find interesting.
Well, Apple being so high. No one talks about anything that's on Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, that's true.
It's in 4th place behind Disney Plus and ahead of Peacock. 42.6 million subscribers.
Do they have like a lot of Apple deals or like what's up?
They do. Okay. So like for example, I just got an iPhone. If you buy an Apple product, any Apple product, you get a year-long subscription to Apple TV Plus included.
There it is.
No extra cost.
There it is. Because I've seen Apple Plus. Thank you, Mr. Alexis. And
you're welcome. There ain't much.
There's like nothing on it.
No.
There's not much. There's some cool stuff here and there. Don't get me wrong.
Ted Lasso, which has won a lot of awards, and for my take, is pretty great TV show.
Yeah. I'll watch it eventually. But it's like when I pay...
The word barren comes to mind?
Barren? Yeah. Because like when I say there's not much, I'm talking like... I feel like I can count what's on there on my hands.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
like I think there's the morning show with Jennifer Aniston and Steve Carell. Then they also have some movies like the Tom Holland movie from the Russos, Cherry, which didn't do very well. Wolfwalkers, they got that movie.
I love Wolfwalkers.
They have at some point they're going to have some A24 exclusives, I imagine, on that service.
He better not move the Green Knight to fucking Apple. You sons of bitches. Don't do it. I better not.
Well, they don't have an exclusive distribution deal, but I remember that
A24... like
to
create shows and shit like that?
Yes. Yeah.
I can see them making some shows. Maybe some documentaries and stuff. They have that Boys State, right?
Yeah, the documentary.
It made me want to give up on society completely.
Right? Something that was hilariously a hit in December was the Mariah Carey Christmas special.
Oh, wow.
For them. That was a big hit for them.
She's a singer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's the only way that makes sense to me, because there's some neat stuff here and there, but to warrant those numbers, hell no.
No.
Okay, so there's that. What else like kind of pops up?
Peacock launched, I believe, later than... Well, I think what Peacock in terms of how high it is, but then also... I mean, I guess it's even with HBO Max, but HBO Max in 7th place.
Yeah. Again,
really?
Peacock, it's free. Okay?
Right.
So that makes sense to me.
Of course.
Because they also advertise themselves as free. And if people can get some free streaming, for sure they'll do it. Yeah, HBO Max. At this point, the only thing I can think of that can help them is a budgeted version.
Like a less expensive version. And we did talk about that, and it's been in the news again lately. So they are launching an ad-supported version of it that is, I believe, going to be $10 a month. And it's going to have all the same stuff minus the 2021 Warner Brothers release schedule
exclusives,
of films.
a month exclusive.
Because that price tag, it is the most expensive streaming service, as we keep saying. But the other thing is, and the thing is, I use HBO Max a lot. There's a lot of great library content on there. And you'd think that would be helping it, but the problem is there's no major franchise show. You know, Prime Video is an interesting service where like there is some interesting content on Prime Video. Not I would say like a heavy library, but they have big shows like Invincible, The Boys.
But it's also tied to like shopping.
Exactly. Right.
Right. Like
Amazon Prime account. Like for those who order your stuff from Amazon, that's where you would get your free 2-day delivery. Not free, but your 2-day delivery shipping system.
So. That's another one where it's really hard to know, like, well, did you just are you just really into 2-day shipping, or do you really want to see The Boys, you know?
Yeah.
It's,
or Miss Maisel.
Or Miss Maisel. It's kind of like Apple. Although I do think there's a lot more interesting content on Amazon.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they need to do something. Let's see what the cheaper option does for them. I've maintained that $15 for one streaming service.
Isn't it $17?
It's 15, is it? Is it 17?
I thought it was 17.
Oh, fuck.
It's 17.
Okay, so if it's 17, gee, yeah. I mean,
that's almost $20 a month.
And I do think there's something to that, because look at Peacock, right? Like, I think the main reason why it's exploded is because it's free. There's a free version that you can just see some shit with ads. So let's see how much a cheaper version would affect those numbers. I'm interested to see.
And in all of this, Netflix is still, the king of the hill.
Yeah, I don't think that's changing anytime soon.
I wouldn't think so, because the thing what the Netflix, I think that Netflix has over like any of the other services. Granted, HBO Max and Disney Plus have these amazing library content, so does Peacock. But no one can come close to matching the output that Netflix has in just pure content. Like, they release like 5 shows a week, right? Like, at this rate, it's incredible how much they have that's new.
Mm-hmm.
And people will watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I think they're going to reign supreme for a long time. And especially because Disney seems to be slowing down.
It does, doesn't it? Curious to see how that goes toward the end of the year. All right, let's get into a big story that happened this weekend that also involves HBO Max. This is a pretty big story. I want to preface this by saying that big mergers like these of these multinational corporations, these conglomerates, are very harmful, in my view, for the working man, for, the working people of these industries. And every single time that these mergers happen, the last thing that the publications like Variety and Deadline cover is how this is going to affect the people, the real people that actually work to, that make up these big names such as AT&T or Warner Brothers or Discovery. And they're the ones ultimately who are going to be fired en masse. And I personally feel the lack of coverage to that until that actually happens, and the fact that that's a reality in our country, is disgusting, and which is why I feel that these mergers should not be allowed to happen. Can we all just agree on that before we even get into this? Because I think it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah. Too big. Too big.
Too big. So here's the story. HBO Max's parent company, Warner Media. Remember that Warner Media is the name of the new company when AT&T purchased Time Warner a few years back. So Warner Media is merging with Discovery in a $43 billion deal. After less than 3 years, AT&T is pulling the plug on its entertainment ambitions, divesting its Warner Media division that it paid $85 billion for in 2018 to Discovery. AT&T basically is saying, we're out of here. We don't want Warner Media anymore. We paid $85 billion for it. Turns out that wasn't very smart of us, and we don't want it anymore. So we found Discovery, who is going to pay us $43 billion, and we're going to give them Warner Media. We should note that a big reason for why that happened is because they are about $150 billion in debt. And they weren't going to get that money back from maintaining Warner Media.
Damn.
And that was also a reason for why HBO Max hasn't been given much to work with in terms of original programming, because they had about, a $4 million budget for new content that AT&T was going to give them?
That explains a lot.
Doesn't it? So in a strange scenario, this may be ultimately what's best in terms of the creative future for HBO Max, with Discovery being put in charge now. And if you're not aware, Discovery is this conglomerate of these cable networks like Food Network and HGTV
it's perfect.
And TLC.
I'll have my Batman cartoons and my 90 Day Fiancé. together, one spot. It's perfect.
Yeah, that's what it all means. This is a pretty big deal, Peter.
It's pretty
Where do you start off?
fucking embarrassing. I'll tell you that. you that Warner Media literally couldn't make you money. Holy shit. I don't know how you do that, right? Like, I feel if I bought Warner Media, I'd be able to crank out some money on them. I don't know. Like, it'll be really interesting to see what happens at the end of the day.
Yeah. The government still has to approve this, but they will approve it.
They'll approve it. They don't give a fuck anymore.
Antitrust laws don't mean anything these days. So.
Yeah. I think it's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is gonna. I mean, $85 billion, man, and then they're just giving it away, basically. So, but you're right. But this wasn't all that was in the news this week for HBO Max. They announced some new projects. We were talking a lot about DC animated shows in the beginning of the podcast, and they've seen that they've come back around to talking about some new projects. So HBO Max announced new Batman and Superman animated series coming. Batman Caped Crusader from J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves, and DC Animated Universe veteran Bruce Timm, which they call a reimagining of the Batman mythology. In a joint statement, they say, "We are beyond excited to be working together to bring this character back to tell engrossing new stories in Gotham City," said Abrams and Reeves. The series will be thrilling, cinematic, and evocative of Batman's noir roots, while diving deeper into the psychology of these iconic characters. Your thoughts on Batman Caped Crusader?
It sounds really neat. I really like it. What was it? Bruce Timm, right?
Yes.
Obviously knows his Batman. The sort of character poster artwork they kind of showed, I was really into. I was like, this art direction looks really, really good. At least based on that little poster that they showed. I'm all down for animated show. Maybe it's because I'm reading comics right now. That I kind of feel more interested in the animated shows right now than more of the live action, because it feels like with the animated you can go further and do more, because with the live action, look at Batman. We've had so many years of Batman movies, but it feels like we've never been able to move beyond that same basic dynamic, same old. Like Batman, year one Batman. He's just met the Joker. Like the same dynamics, even with Zack Snyder's, where he tries to go a little crazy with it. I don't know. Like it seems like there's only so far you can push. Now with Marvel, I guess you can kind of argue the opposite, because we've just gotten a new Captain America, and that's been building, right. You can argue, for over a decade and shit like that. But specifically with DC, it's like, man, like with Superman, I haven't gotten a Superman I've given a shit about in my lifetime.
I guess that one you're reading about the Clan comic.
And it's like, fuck, man. Like, this is what I want. It's not too much to ask. I think especially of your DC, because there's so much like crazy DC stories that, again, like when you look at something like Infinity War or Civil War with Marvel, where it's like the only way you can do these stories is if you have this massive universe that you build up to, if it's in live action. But with cartoons, you can do that. You don't have to wait 10 years and like billions and billions and billions of dollars and all these other movies. you don't need to do all that bullshit. You can just do it. Like, we haven't talked about Invincible a bit, but like, look at Invincible. You cannot do that shit live action. You just cannot.
Oh, no. Can we and that when you say that about, you know, animation and allows you to go further where live action wouldn't, like, you just reminded me of that clip that I shared with you this week where Robert Kirkman was a guest on Kevin Smith's show.
Mm-hmm.
I love Kevin Smith, but man, was he saying some things that were really just absurd in my view. And like his hounding of like, why would Robert Kirkman not be interested if Amazon wanted to change the animated show into a live action? Like, because in his head, like, oh, live action's better.
Yeah. I think he has that old fashioned view of like, you know, if you're talking about the climbing scale, you know, it goes comics, animation, live action, maybe television, and then film, as far as like from what matters least to most. And which is funny because he's literally just he's coming out with an animated Masters of the Universe continuation show on Netflix. Kevin Smith. Yeah, it does get kind of, it's kind of sad how animation is sort of like an undervalued medium. And again, we're not talking about Invincible yet, but I really think, I don't think a film could do the story justice.
No.
I really don't think so. Like, it would only work in this format. In a television show, you wouldn't be able to maintain the budget you would need to say. So like the only medium that I think would work is animation.
And that's just basic economics.
Yeah.
Why can't that click for people? I just don't get it. Like, you just can't do it. So with Superman, right? They have a new Superman show called My Adventures with Superman, and Jack Quaid is going to be playing Superman. The series is described as a kids and family animated series following 20-something versions of, I'm going to assume this means like in their 20s, not like 20 different versions, because it was weird. It was worded weirdly, but let's say 20-something versions of Superman, Lois Lane, and Jimmy Olsen as they begin to discover who they are and everything they can accomplish together as an investigative reporting team at the Daily Planet. This sounds awesome. I'll watch it.
I think it's really cool. I think it's really neat.
Yeah.
And like the Superman smashes the Klan, that one, it's not in any continuity. It's kind of like an Elseworlds book. It's literally just like, here's a Superman story, and that's them, Superman and Lois Lane, and especially Jimmy Olsen when they're very young. Right, like barely starting out, and that sort of dynamic. I really enjoyed reading it. So when they announced this, I'm like, okay, awesome. Like, because Jimmy Olsen and especially Lois Lane, I feel are so undervalued when it comes to the Superman mythos, especially in recent years. I feel like they've really been sort of pushed to the side.
Away.
Yeah, like it kind of makes me sad. Like if this younger generation, all they've really known is angry, evil Superman. Like, to them, that's kind of default Superman, and they've never really gotten that cheerful, you know, up and away. He can, you know, leap entire buildings in a single bound, you know, faster than a locomotive. You know, that old fashioned, fun, just good-hearted Superman, and that's why I like. And again, they also showed a still of like the animation, and I'm like, this is cool. Like, it's more light, a little bit of that modern. Like, I could see this premiering on a Cartoon Network. This is from the animation style, but it looks lighter. It looks fun. No, I'm digging it. I like that. I saw some people annoyed that it's like, oh, all the focus goes to Batman and Superman. You know, no other character in DC gets love. Yeah, that's true. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, at the same time, Batman and Superman are not really going to have a big presence in the live-action movies. really.
Batman. Well, I mean, they are though, right? Because
They are, but they're not. We discussed this before. They're not going to coalesce in any kind of a cinematic universe,
yeah, no,
which
no,
is
no,
what people
yeah,
really
no,
want.
no.
Bad Boys for Life filmmakers are going to direct the new Batgirl movie for Warner Brothers. This is going to center on Barbara Gordon, the daughter of Gotham City Police Commissioner James Gordon. Christina Hodson, who wrote Bumblebee, Birds of Prey, and The Flash, penned the script for what is being planned as a movie exclusively for HBO Max.
This is what they need to do to get people to HBO Max. This right here is exactly it. Because also, what's really intriguing, it's not a series. It's not a miniseries. No. It's a full-length film, right?
Yeah.
I think that's neat. I think that's really interesting. I like Batgirl. I think Batgirl's really cool as a character. The entire Batman mythos is so fucking interesting, and so many of the characters. There's a reason why at one point, at a lot of points, just like you'll have a Batwoman comic, a Robin comic, three different Batman comics running, like all this shit running at the same time. And they work because they're all interesting. So no, I'm cool. I'm for it. Let's see what goes on.
That's all the news for this week. Peter, let's get into your thoughts of Invincible. As a reminder, of course, if you want to hear my thoughts and David's thoughts, we had 2 episodes on that already on the feed. You can listen to right now. I don't know if Peter listened to anything that we said. I don't think he had the time to, in his defense.
I usually listen to them while I'm driving.
Oh, okay. Invincible.
From work. Invincible. I love how wholesome and just family friendly the show is. Like, you can watch it and you just get a warm, fuzzy feeling at the end. It's like, yes, that old fashioned superhero feel. Yeah.
If only you could see the look on my face right now. Because this is Martinez being sarcastic.
Oh no, really? I didn't know. I love Invincible. I think it's fucked up fun. What's interesting about Invincible to me, and this is the most interesting thing to me, is that, and I've used this phrase a lot, is that it's able to have its cake and eat it too. I feel like it's the only superhero thing that is able to both be a superhero story and be a semi-deconstruction of the genre and the tropes and stuff like that. So, and a lot of people will point like, well, what about The Boys? What about Watchmen? What about these other things? And I always feel like those other things aren't superhero stories. They are stories that happen to have superheroes in them. And they comment on them, but they're not like genuine comic book, shit of the week that happens, right? Like, if you take all the violence out and some of the harsher subjects, you could literally have like a Saturday morning cartoon with Invincible. If you take out a lot of the adult stuff, you can pare it back to be like, oh yeah, like I'd watch this after Justice League Unlimited and Static Shock or some shit like that, and that's not something you can say with The Boys or Watchmen or any other attempted superhero deconstruction. But Invincible kind of plays in both worlds, and they're able to balance it without ever it falling apart, which is amazing. Like, I didn't think you could do that, and it's kind of doing it. It's being that adult superhero that like stories that aren't stupid or bullshit or annoying. It's like, because you know how whenever everyone's like, oh, I want to see an R-rated Justice League movie or R-rated Star Wars stuff, and like that just makes you go like, oh my god, shut the fuck up, you know. That's not what these things are. Invincible is kind of like that R-rated Star Wars film that works. It's this impossible thing, at least to me. I really dug the show. I really like the characters. I love that the animation makes it feel like those old superhero cartoons you would watch, like the DC ones and even some of the Marvel ones. It plays on your expectations, right? Like you feel like you're going in like, oh yeah, I remember, I know what I'm watching, and then splat at the end of the first episode. And it's really incredible. The action is incredible. The voice acting is incredible. The storytelling, like I said, I have read all of Invincible, and specifically the first stories that they go over. I feel they really improve on them on every level. There's nothing where I went like, I think the comics did better. At no point did I feel that way, which I think is really impressive. No, I think it's really fantastic. I'm trying to think of other shows, because I don't watch a lot of shows. I think it's the best show of the year. I can't think of other shows.
I agree.
But yeah, that's like my general thoughts.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's.
I know. David and I are with you. It's the best show of the year, and it's been a good year for shows. It's been a good year for superhero genre shows. Actually, so it's saying a lot.
Yeah,
really, that this show is as great as it is. To me, my biggest perplexion is what is taking Kyle and Alexis so long to watch this. And the thing is, I say that knowing that when the day comes that Kyle watches this,
God,
he is just gonna be the worst about it, because the rest of us would have like already like moved on, you know, and like boy, this happens all the time.
Every fucking time. I remember when that happened with Game of Thrones. Do you remember
or
that?
Last Airbender?
He started watching like season 5 or 6 or some shit. Like he came in very late after a long time. I told you guys to watch that shit, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh my god, Game of Thrones!" And like, shut the fuck up about it. And it's like, "Oh really, bitch? After all these years, I told you to fucking watch it." No, he's probably not watched it because I recommended it to him, and he doesn't want to seem predictable, so now he's not gonna watch it. As far as Moreno, I don't know. Probably watching some musicals, but overall, I really love the show. I really do. There's so much interesting concepts that they play with, like you usually have your typical weird comic book stuff, right? And they'll take that stuff here and do really interesting stuff with it, like the Flaxans, the alien. There's always invading aliens, right, and superhero stuff, but they have this little twist where like time moves differently for them. Yeah, and like every time they're defeated, they'll come back a week later, but it's actually been decades for them, and they've like perfected their technology, and they keep coming back. And there's just always little interesting stuff like that. Like with Monster Girl. I don't think they went over her origin story in the show.
I don't recall what the origin story was, so I guess no.
She was a young girl a gypsy curse, basically. A gypsy curse that she, would turn into a monster. And it ate, but the whole like shtick of like every time she becomes one, it ages her backwards. There's just a lot of fun stuff. Everything with Robot and what ended up happening with him. I love the Mahler twins, and the way they're like, "You're the clone. No, I'm the original. You were the clone." There's like I don't know, like all that, the world stuff, the world building really works for me. Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything specific that you would
No,
like
I
to
mean,
hear
you can say what you like, but I look, all of these things have been pointed out here or there and that there, but no, I don't have anything specific other than I think you kind of hit on the main points, and that is you really enjoyed the comic, and you're saying that the show improves on the comic in almost every way possible. That's kind of unheard of.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive too.
Although, to be fair, I don't know if a comic's ever been adapted in this way. In the past, they'll take comic adaptions. Usually meant like we'll take the headline, like the title of this one.
We'll use it for inspiration.
Yeah, and here,
But we're not going to use the main storylines in the way that you think that we're going to use them.
here it really is a direct adaptation. There are changes
And
here.
there's a big reason. There's Kirkman, who wrote the comic, is very much heavily involved with the series, and so.
By the way, you notice not only do they have a lot like an A-list voice cast, but they also have a lot of A-list music they use, like a lot of licensed music, which is also pretty unheard of for like animation. Like, just
if anybody can pay for it, Jeff Bezos can.
well, I think it's because Amazon Art just like owns a lot of music.
They probably do. There's Amazon Music.
Yeah, like they just have the rights to a lot of music, so they're like, okay, like we can just do whatever the fuck we can pick the music that we want to use.
Yeah.
Daddy Bezos is already, he's like, here's my vault of music, choose from it as you wish. They have a lot of Run the Jewels.
It's going to be a lot of shows that come out this year. It's going to be hard to top this show.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be hard to top this show. Honestly. It is, I think this might be, assuming that it goes on for a while, be one of the defining shows of this decade.
But again, that's why I kind of compared it more to something like The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
Than anything else. Because it is building this very large overall narrative.
It is.
And it has some like emotional as fuck. Like it's no other show this year has hit me like a ton of fucking bricks the way this one has. And I know what's gonna happen. And still it hits me.
And I'm grateful that I don't know what's gonna happen. Although I hear that doing it the other way around is also has its benefits as well.
It does. I know you're the kind that's like, I don't want to know.
No.
I just want to be surprised.
I've always been that way. You have always been the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whereas where I like to go into these kind of genre movies, like completely cold, you already know the story because you saw it on some kind of plot leak, and so you know what's going to happen.
You're goddamn
That's how it
right.
goes. So I know, like, when we get to Black Widow, that's how it's going to be. I'm going to go in and, like, not... Because you go out of your way to see these things.
Oh, yeah,
if
for
you
sure.
do happen to see them. So you'll know the whole story of what happens.
Probably,
and then,
yeah.
And then I'll just be trying to watch the movie, the best way that I can. And everything. Well, I guess that's going to close it for today. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining us. And thank you all for listening. We hope to be back sometime soon to review the remaining movies that we promised, as well as our top 10 shows of the year in June. Thank you all for listening so much. Stay under the spotlight, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.